Would you like to hear a flying story from a Navy pilot? Would you like to hear one? Because it ties to kind of what we're here to talk about today. So let me throw this out at you. How many people in the room have ever been on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier? Have you ever been there? You look around the room. Wow, wow. The Lexington. Hurrah! Wow. Yeah, we got that moored right out here in the Rio Grande. It's in El Paso. Okay. Okay, so Corpus got it. You know, I actually carrier qualled on the USS Lexington. I landed 2 jets on board her, the T-2 and the TA-4 Skyhawk. The A-4, the one the Blue Angels flew right before they went to the F-18s. I landed both those aircraft on the Lexington out in the Gulf of Mexico. True story. You know, it's got a wooden deck, right? Yeah. It's incredible. So I want you to go with me very, very quickly. I want to take you down a path about how we get stuck with our attitude, right? We get the breaks in people's lives. So here we go. You saw the Top Gun video. You saw going off the aircraft carrier. I want you to go with me. I'd like you to put yourself in the cockpit of a Grumman A6 intruder. You saw the pictures. Imagine the seat. Imagine the control stick in your right hand, throttles in your left hand. I want you to look out down the catapult track. Remember how long it is? 300 feet. It's a football field. 300 feet. You're getting ready to go flying, and you look to your left. Now, the A6s that I flew always went off catapult number 4, and they're numbered 1, 2 off the front, 3, and 4 off the side. The 4th one is so close to the edge of the ship that your tire is like this far from the edge. So when you're sitting 16 feet in the air in your A6 intruder, you wouldn't believe they're really big airplanes, 16 feet in the air, 60-foot wingspans. They're like 55 feet long. You didn't know they were that big. They weigh 64,000 pounds, 32 tons, and it flies, thanks to Bernoulli. So you're sitting here getting ready to fly, and you look out to your left, and what do you see? Water. You know how far down it is? 100 feet to the water. There's always a 40-knot wind blowing, just like El Paso in the spring. So you got wind blowing over you, and you look back up, and then you notice something I came here today to tell you. Only Navy pilots know this. No other pilots in the world do. I came here today to tell you, aircraft carriers move on the water. But you know how they move? You get into tension, right? You're wiping out the controls. You're at full throttle, getting ready to go flying. You got a solid metal piece that's holding you. It actually hooks into the flight deck, and you're held by a solid piece of metal. They touch a button, and the metal snaps. And pew, down the track you go, 0 to 150 in 2 seconds. But before you get that opportunity, you're sitting in tension, getting ready to go flying, and this is what you notice. The aircraft carriers, they ride the swells of the ocean, and it points at the water, and it points at the sky. You, now's a good time, now's a good time. Not now, not now, wait! And as soon as it comes up the other swell, shoot me, shoot me! One second you're sitting, the next second you're flying. So it's like, away we went. So we were about 500 miles off the coast of Portland, Oregon, coming in right around, Seattle, Portland, the whole area up there, Bremerton, Washington, where the USS Nimitz was docked out of. So we're doing 500 miles an hour, go with me, 500 miles an hour, 500 feet over the ocean, coming right into the Portland River where it feeds into the Pacific Ocean. Now, you know what? Just imagine what that feels like. Screaming along as fast as you can, no speed limit. And I looked out in front of me, and my bombardier navigator got in the radar, and he found a metallic return that was coming from the mouth of the river. Some metallic object was there, and he said, "Hey, Ensign Woods," back when I was a disease, an ensign. He goes, "Hey, Ensign Woods, can you determine what's there?" And I looked out about 15 miles away, and I said, "It looks like a man in a fishing boat." It was a Saturday morning, about 11 o'clock. Not a cloud in the sky. There was no ships around except this one man. He was sitting in an open metal fishing boat with one seat, and he had his fishing rod. I could see him sipping his coffee. He was just communing with God and nature in complete silence. Do you all know what occurs in the mind of a Navy attack pilot? When an opportunity like that presents itself. I said, I bet you this gentleman is a real fan of naval aviation. I bet you this gentleman would really appreciate a personal air show. I bet you this gentleman may not know how many rivets are underneath my right wing. I should let him count. So we lowered that airplane down to about as high as the bottom of the chandeliers is above this floor and just inched up the throttles. We were coming so fast off the Pacific Ocean that the vortices off the wings would hit the water and pull it back up. We made 2 walls of water. We put one on each side. We went right over this guy in complete silence. Till about a half a second later, when the sound wave caught up with the aircraft doing 650 knots, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Boom! Out he went. He was waving at us like this. I know he loved it. But he wasn't waving with his whole hand. I'm sure he was saying, "You're number one." You know, I love to tell that story because there's 2 kinds of people in every audience. There's half of the audience who just went, "Oh, Ron, yes!" And there's the other half who went, "That was very rude." Do you know if he had a change of depends? No, I just know he needed them. So here's the point of the story. You know when you do bad things to other Travel Information Center, you know what happens to you? You know when headquarters does something bad to somebody, you know what happens? You know what happens when you, have you figured this out right? It's called the boomerang theory of life. When you do bad things to other, what comes back? You'll be working a deal over here the next week, right? And the thing you did the week before, bink, right in the back of the head. So we're coming around Mount St. Helens, right? 500 knots, got 6 Gs put on the aircraft. I got, Mount St. Helens just right down the road from Portland, Oregon. We're flying right up the part that's blown out. I looked inside and my hydraulics gauges went, lost all primary hydraulics in the A6. The A6 flies on one thing, hydraulics. You know that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when everything's going right? Didn't have it. So we leveled the wings, right, and we declared an emergency. We'll be on tower 6 or 4. We're declaring an emergency. We need vectors, we need the visual straight in, we need the crash checks, we need the long-term gear rig, we need the runway phone, we need to get them back right now. They come back, Roger 604, fly heading 0302 and contact the tower if you make it. F! So we get within 3,000 feet of the field, and here's the whole point of the story. You all are going back with me. I want you to feel the cockpit around you. I want you to feel the seat. I want you to feel the control sticks in your right hand and your throttles in your left hand. I want you to look out, and you see the runway about half a mile away, 3,000 feet. You look down, you got about half a mile to the ground. You're getting ready to land, right? Because you have an emergency. So you start to lower the landing. They don't work. They operate on? Thank you. So you have to go through an emergency checklist. You go engine, hydraulic failure in flight. You go through all the action items, and you have to hit a button that explodes the gear down. They're built-in explosive charges in all military aircraft. They blow the gear down. You can't get them back up, but that ain't your problem. I just want them down. So then you start to lower the flaps and slats, right? You've landed on the corporate jet, right? Southwest Airlines. And the flaps and slats, right? They come off the front and the back of the wing. They change its camber, Bernoulli's principle, right? Velocity and pressure are inversely proportional. So if you change a camber, you can fly slower and have more control. They didn't work. Because they operate on? That's the whole point, right? So we touched down the runway at 240 miles an hour in an aircraft that weighs how much? 32 tons. That's like 3 Job cement trucks full of cement right here out of the quarry in El Paso, stacked on top of each other with 2 little wings. And you touch down the runway, and what do you step on? That's the whole point of the story. What do the brakes work on? Thank you. Imagine 32 tons at 240 miles an hour, and you're stepping. Well, after you change your undies, then you reach over and you hit the auxiliary braking system, which has an accumulator that gives you 4 pedal pushes, and it's over. So you hit 1. You're stepping on that for all you're worth. That runway is going 8,000 feet left. 7, 6, 5, 4. Stopped at the very end. We said, we're bound to tower. This is 604. We need a taxi to our line if we could. We need to get back to our line. They said, hold your position. I have an aircraft on takeoff. So we stood on the brakes. About 10 seconds later, they said, now you're cleared to taxi. So got off the brakes and hit the gas. Jet wouldn't move. More gas. Jet wouldn't move. True story. Can anybody tell me what had happened? We ran out of gas. That's why the engines worked. Okay. You know, we landed at about twice the speed we should have, at about 4 times the weight we should have, and the tires, right, we built up a lot of kinetic energy, held the kinetic in one place, kinetic converted to heat, and it melted the tires. I didn't have wheels, I had stubs. So what would you do? You do what any good Navy pilot does. Turn off the engines, put the paper bag on your head with 2 eye holes, and walk away. You know the point of that story? That jet was useless with its brakes locked, so are you. That jet was useless with its brakes locked, so are you. You ever backed out of your garage with your emergency brake on in your car? Show of hands. Ladies and gentlemen, a hand raised to your shoulder is not a commitment. It means deep down you're not proud of it. Okay, thank you. How many of y'all ever backed out of your car with your emergency brake on and everything? Hey, does the car go in reverse? Yes or no? Yes. Yes, it will. Metaphorical plot point. What's the only direction you can move with the brakes on in the Texas travel industry? Plot point. Backwards. So, you get out and put it in drive, what happens with the brakes on? Conk. Here's the point. I want to end this morning session by saying, I want to ask you to release your brakes.